We are recording. That is the thing that's happening. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Julia Farrar. I am head of digital literacy initiatives at the University Libraries at Virginia Tech. And this year I have been a affiliated faculty member with the Media Education Lab. And I'm excited to welcome you to part 3 of our Librarians on YouTube series, where we've been exploring what it means to be a librarian on YouTube and how libraries and librarians are using YouTube to connect with their communities, to teach, to do all kinds of things. And today I am very excited to talk with members of the Kansas City Youth and Family Engagement team. We have Claire, Molly, and Crystal here with us, and I'll let them introduce themselves momentarily. But first, a couple logistics and where we're headed. We are going to hear a little bit about who these folks are, and they have a quick trailer video for us to get a sense of their channel. What better way to see them in action? And then we will have a panel discussion with them for about 20 minutes to get a sense of how they're getting started, how they've been transferring some existing programs and also building new things through YouTube. We will have some small group time. One of our goals for this series has been to connect folks who are interested in YouTube. So maybe you'll make a friend, maybe you'll even meet someone who you can start a channel with, who knows? And we will talk about what draws us to YouTube as viewers, and then how we might think about being inspired by what we hear today, to think about how you might connect with your community through YouTube. We will finish off with debriefing from those small groups and open Q&A for our panelists. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Molly to give us our exciting trailer.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be here. Thank you so much to Julia for inviting us to be here. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully the sound works, so let me know if it doesn't. And we'll do a little teaser trailer. Our YouTube channel is called KC Library Youth. It started out with geared towards like tweens, like older kids, and then we moved our story times over. So we wanted an all-encompassing youth channel, not just for, teens and tweens. So here we go. Here's a little taste of what librarians are like at the Kansas City Public Library. Can you all hear that okay?
Our very special LGBTQ.
Sorry, one second. Okay, perfect.
I am so excited to bring our very first Storytime snack to you all today.
And I'm new to this, just like you're new to this, so let's learn together. So if we mess up, that's okay. I'm gonna read a book today.
Today we're going to be reading about a group of animal friends who are trying to make the best out of a gloomy, rainy day. Oh, hi, Mr. Marcus. Although we tried, we were no match to the moose. He's fantastic, but you'll learn more about that in the story. Let's get started reading.
Welcome to our very special LGBTQ Pride Month edition of Storytime Snacks. I'm Miss Lauren.
Hola amigos, bienvenidos a esta hora de cuento para la biblioteca de Kansas City.
We're gonna start still by taking our 3 deep breaths together, but then we're gonna dive right in.
I'm not a burger, I'm a boy, shouted Benny. Leave me alone! I am a library scientist. Mine didn't come out like that at all, did it? No. Martha Stewart, 20 Mule Team, Borax. Let's go marching one by one. Hurrah, hurrah. You know what? They can't get through that hole. Oh, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. I'm kidding. I think there might be one in my shirt. No, I'm not. Minecraft guy.
Hi, I'm Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, and I'm reading one of my favorite books of all time for you, Goodnight Moon.
Hi, I'm Miss India, and I am a friend of the Kansas City Public Library.
I'm a friend of the Kansas City Public Library.
I'm a friend of the Kansas City Public Library.
Y soy amiga de la Librería Pública de Kansas City.
Thank you so much for watching. Remember that you are all strong and you are all loved. And I hope that you join us again soon. Bye.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yes, thank you. As you can tell, Claire is our true star and comedic relief of this library. So thank you all for watching. It was so much fun to put together.
Wonderful. That is a great introduction to your channel. Could you each give us a quick sense of who you are?
I'm Crystal Ferris. I'm the director of the Youth and Family Engagement Department, and am lucky enough to work with these creative people.
Hi, everyone. Go Claire, go Claire.
I'm Claire Hollander, and I manage the youth floor in this beautiful building that you got to see some footage of. I forget sometimes how gorgeous this building is, and then when you see it like that, it's like, man, we are so lucky. So that's me, Claire Hollander.
Hi, everyone. I'm Molly Darova. I am the early learning librarian at the Kansas City Public Library. So I am department-wide, but stationed in the same beautiful building as Claire and Crystal.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Claire, did you want to give us a quick sense of what's on your channel and how that's organized as well before we jump in more?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this is not going to be a mess here. I always have so many windows. It must be this one. No, it's not that one. You know what? It's behind. Let's see if I'm going to be able to find it. No, that's not it, is it? I'm so.
Claire, do you want me to share my screen and you can talk about it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I have two screens, and sometimes I really struggle with sharing those.
Totally. Ooh, let me stop the automatic video. Okay. I'll be your hands. You can be the voice.
Okay. Thanks, Molly. I sure appreciate you. Well, you can talk about it yourself. You know, honestly, Molly was one of the instrumental forces in organizing this. We started, and Crystal's going to talk more about how we started and when we started. But we got about 6 months into it and realized, wow, we've created quite a body of work here, and we need to organize it so that people can find what they're looking for. So, Molly, could you go back up just one?
Yeah.
Steam, we always have some kind of video at the top that's pinned. This one is super fun. If you get a chance to watch it, you'll see some of our other people. We try to engage staff members from other departments in. So that's just promoting our summer reading. We use this a lot to promote everything. Then Healthcare Heroes Story Time. Those are local doctors and nurses at our Children's Mercy Hospital who have, everybody wants to get on board with reading stories. Molly's going to talk about that later. Then the Make Do Tell are, we do things that are appealing to all age groups. And so the color coding kind of helps to determine what age group that is being targeted. There's a lot of really fun things in there, and trying to demonstrate the scientific process basically, and encouraging kids to make mistakes, doing things goofily. We feel having fun and making mistakes is really good modeling for all kinds of people, really. So then we're doing the story times. All of the youth librarians in the system, we have 10 libraries, participate, and they come to the studio and record, and then Molly puts all the intros and outros on those. And then we have a whole digital media lab that deserves their entire webinar devoted just to the work that they are doing. And then the teens have a lot of stuff there. We've got, I don't know how many videos they've produced that our teen librarians are very prolific and super creative. And then the playlists are all down below. We just wanted to make sure that people saw that there's a little bit of structure there, kind of after the fact, but sort of, when you get started, you're just responding, and then we realized, wow, we've got something here. So okay.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I know that how to structure things and thinking about the different pieces has been a question that's come up in some of our previous events as well. So that's a great example to see the way you're configuring things. Awesome. So I think if we're ready to dive in,
Sure.
Crystal, if you could give us a sense, just kind of how this all started, some background on how you got here and how that fits into your library structure as a whole.
Yes, like everyone else, of course, we closed the library in March of 2020 and knew that we needed a way to continue to connect the community as much as possible. Especially in the very beginning, you all will remember, we got lots of media inquiries about what was available for people and their children because they weren't coming to the library or going to school. So what were we going to be doing for them? So we quickly moved to try to connect through social media. We did story times on Facebook. We, utilized Instagram. We just kept experimenting. But it was very clear very quickly that our parents and other caregivers and mostly children and teens were going to find us on YouTube. And so that came through loud and clear through other social media, and YouTube just became the place for us to make that happen. So within 2 months of closing the library, we launched a YouTube channel and started adding things. We did story time 7 days a week in the beginning. And we did series programs. We have a wonderful youth librarian who is an artist. And so she initially started out with teaching cartooning through YouTube to make that connection. I think one of the things that I wanted to share is that sometimes the question is, how can you do that with library structure and hierarchy and all of that? We have a structure here at Kansas City that the Kansas City Public Library is kind of the hole in the donut, and surrounding us are other very strong library systems. So we are the city system surrounded by all the others. We have 10 buildings. Our direct service district is approximately 270,000 people, but the metro is 2.2 million. And because we're in the middle, we tend to serve the whole metro rather than just our service district. We do that through 10 buildings and an outreach department, but we also have the youth and family engagement department. So that's 30 librarians that are based in home locations and other branches and outreach. Because we have this separate department, sometimes it's a little easier for us to move in a direction as a youth-focused direction. But it still requires cooperation with branch managers and other departments. It just may, because we have a separate department, it may be a little bit more streamlined for us. So that's what I wanted to share about that. Thanks, Julia.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a lot of people to wrangle and a lot of people that you're serving as well. Thinking about that on scale is really interesting. And I think to me, what drew me to your channel was seeing some of the ways that it seemed like you were transferring maybe things that you had already been doing, programming that you were already prioritizing, and thinking about what that looks like on YouTube. So I was wondering, Molly, if you could talk a little bit more about what that looked like process-wise and kind of where you've ended up so far.
Totally. So something that is so important to our system as a whole and in each branch is our story times. We had, I think, at least one story time every single day at one of our branches, usually multiple happening at the same time. So we knew that families wanted these still, and that not only was it a great time to get their kids out of the house and coming in for some early lit skills, it was also to socialize and to meet other families, to meet librarians. So I think it was a week after we closed the library last March that we just jumped into Facebook Live story times. As Crystal has said so many times, we built the plane while we were flying it. We truly had kind of no idea what we were doing. It was new to everybody. So there wasn't really a standard to go off of. And I still look back and watch those videos and I was such a scared little baby. I had no idea what I was doing and looked so awkward, but we just went with it because we wanted to interact with our families. And what was great about doing our lives is that we could get some interaction. You could read the comments from families and you felt a little bit more like you were speaking directly to them, but they also were very nerve-wracking, and we did one every single day of the week. So that got a little daunting and tiring. I think we did that for about 5 months. We had 7 days a week. We had Facebook Live story times. And so in September, we took a little break, kind of wanted to revamp and see what was going on, how many people were actually utilizing these story times. And like Crystal mentioned, the families, the teens, the kids, they were going to YouTube. So we decided to change our story times, move them to YouTube. A lot of pros came with that. It wasn't as nerve-wracking for our librarians. You got to pre-record, edit, you could mess up, it was okay. For families, you don't need a Facebook login, so it was more accessible to everybody. You can mark if it's kid-friendly content. So as great as the comments were on Facebook, thankfully we never really had any trolls, but you can limit that on YouTube so families know it's safe for kids to watch. And you can go back again and again and again to watch these story times. We have new ones every week, so they're on a weekly rotation. So we started that in September of last year, of 2020. And after about 2 weeks of doing that, we realized that they were just too long. We were still doing our 30-minute story times, which was what our in-person story times were like. And that was just way too much screen time for especially ages 0 to 5. Those are the kids that we were targeting with these. They already have screen fatigue from just pandemic life. So we pivoted again to doing what we called storytime snacks. So these were 10-minute story times. We would read one book, maybe sing 2 songs. They were a lot more playful. We wanted to target these to families who are crazy busy and can't sit down and watch 30 minutes with a 2-year-old, because who can do that? So we were using what also, I love that Crystal, I don't think she's mentioned it yet in this, but we were talking about using the design thinking approach. So we wanted to empathize with our viewers. We wanted to try to meet them where they were and not just stick in our own rut of, we've done 30-minute story times for 15 years or, however long. We need to adjust with our audience too. So the Storytime Stacks have been a huge success, which is awesome. We have over 100 recorded in the past 9 months, I believe. And we have 4 brand new ones every week that we rotate in. So we have fresh content. We added a pajama story time. So we've been wanting to start this in person, but it's kind of hard to do this. So this was the great way to start it, to have, kids coming in at 8 o'clock in their pajamas to the branch. So this was a great way to launch it. We started our weekend story times, which is also something that we get asked a lot. So another great way to start it and make it more accessible to families. So we have story time Saturdays and Sundays also. And then this led into some community partnerships. So we were up and rolling on YouTube for maybe 2 or 3 months, and the Friends of the Library reached out and said they were interested in being featured in some story times, which was awesome. So if anybody else works at a public library, you probably have people coming up asking if they can lead a story time. And you're like, we love the enthusiasm, but there's a lot more to it. So this is a great way to offer that to our patrons. So for the whole month of November, every single night we had what we called bedtime stories with friends. And one of our friends members would read a book, and it was incredible. I think the adults loved it as much as the kids did. It was awesome to see our community members supporting the early learning skills that we teach at the library. And it was a huge success. So that then takes us to last month in May. I did another community partnership story time with Children's Mercy, which is our gigantic, amazing children's hospital in the area. And we called it our Healthcare Heroes Story Times, and featured nurses and doctors who wanted a way to connect with kids that wasn't about COVID. And they also found this to be like the greatest reprieve and such a fun way to show the community that they are fun adults who care about you and aren't just scary doctors. So it was like so many things that we were teaching kids with those videos. And then the last thing, I know I'm rambling, there's so much happening with our YouTube. Our last thing that we then continued on to was starting what we call First Chapter Fridays. This was a couple weeks ago in June, we began this. And this is for kids aged about 5 to 8. So that, I don't know, they're a tough age group because you want to target them. You want them to know that they're special and give them content that's related to them and their learning abilities. But it's kind of tough. So we wanted to start this program where we're reading easy chapter books. We read one chapter as like a teaser and then direct them to our catalog to check out the ebook. So we're trying to reach more learners, reach more ages, reach more families, have as much diversity in our story times as possible. So we have some bilingual story times. We've had some American Sign Language story times, just as wide array as we can of faces, voices, languages, and families. So,
yeah. And we got to see so much of that in your trailer as well. So I love that I have these images in my mind of what that looks like already. And I love hearing you talk about the ways that you were thinking about access and meeting community needs and thinking very specifically about the age groups that you're working with and what that looks like when you're connecting online. It's just such a fun story with all these different facets that you all are thinking about. I love that so much.
Totally. Thank you.
So I think that really makes me think more about, and some of what you were talking about, any other new needs that you identified and new community needs or ways that you've built on programming. And Claire, could you talk more about some of the other programming that you've built on through YouTube?
Sure. And one of the things that just came to mind while you were just finishing up, Julia, was the fact that we don't really know who's actually watching, and so we're just kind of making it up and based on what we know. Right. So we decided the group I'm working with are doing STEAM projects. We had been doing catering to homeschool groups that would come in and do experiments in the library, really following the scientific process. And so YouTube seems a perfect medium for that. You saw the exploding pumpkin. And we were able to create using our materials. That's the other thing that's been so important to us in keeping our mission in the front, but also connecting everything we do to our collections and showing, hey, I got this in a book, and look at all these books that have opened our world. Let me show you how to plant pot plants or that kind of thing, right? And then I created a terrarium. And then the next librarian came behind me and she talked about the water cycle and used the terrarium to demonstrate the water cycle. And so paying attention to what's kind of happening in curriculum for 4th grade, for instance, and also paying attention to our collections, that there's just a wealth of knowledge there that, you know, we do use YouTube a lot when we want to answer a question really quickly, right? But, you know, in these days, if you want to learn how to juggle, for instance, are you going to go to the book or are you going to go to YouTube? So then I was like, I'll teach them how to juggle using a book on YouTube, and they'll probably watch it going, why doesn't she just Google it? So I don't know if I answered your question, Julia.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I think with the STEM videos and the make do tell, that is the age group that's a little bit older than what Molly was talking about.
We are directing those to tweens primarily, yes, and paying attention to curriculum, not really, but a little bit, and just you know, in one of the videos I started talking about why the ant farm died ultimately, and I started getting into this long description of the queen ant, and you know, and then basically I realized my audience doesn't have the knowledge base to understand. So then I was like, you know, federal governments had to get involved. It was a big thing. Ant farms can't live because they can't have the queen. But so paying attention to that, and but also realizing that, for instance, our cartoon, I think that Samantha's drawing classes appealed to a really broad range, and we marketed those to teachers, art teachers, teachers who were really like, what are we going to do? And then that was something, even high school kids find that really appealing. And when you have a librarian who's as dynamic, she was the one that was running, you know, through Kirk Hall with the chariots of the fire. But so even the high school kids are getting something, because we're not sure the high school kids are really savvy to what we're doing, but the ones who are helping us create content and then responding back with their artwork on our Instagram account are definitely getting something out of all the things we're doing. So Trevor, I saw you. Yeah, anyway, I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you. So I have one more question for any or all of you before we head to breakout rooms, which is, what has most surprised you about being on YouTube this past year?
I can hop on if you guys don't mind. I love it so much more than I thought I was going to. It's really tough, especially for children's librarians, not seeing kids in person and families in person. And I know that's been a big struggle for a lot of us. But in a different sense, it offered so much more freedom. I feel like I was able to show my personality more. I was less worried about the logistics of, are all the families here? Is everyone doing okay? Are there, distractions? And are they going to respond weirdly to this joke that I make? And I just do it to the camera and nobody responds. And I think it's awesome. And so it helped me have a little more freedom to be silly and playful. And it was easier than I thought. So advice to everyone out there, we are lucky and have amazing editors and artists who just happen to work with us. But I am not one of those people, and I learned some very basic editing skills. So I think that this can be amazing for anybody who wants to just try your hand at it. And it really helped my confidence in story times and doing some of the programming that we've been working on.
I think I'd like to jump in a little bit too. I'm an old librarian. I've been doing this for a very long time. And I remember very clearly early in my career making a point with one of my youth librarians that we had to have a website presence because people expected us to have a website presence. And I think it's the same thing with YouTube. What has surprised me, but should not have, is that people are on YouTube. It's where they get their information. It's where they get their entertainment. It's where they get their music. And they expect their library to be present in some way, shape, or form. They can't make it to that event when we do events in person someday again. They want to know that they can have that content again in another way. And I think that that's what we can do. I also think one of the things that surprised me is that in my entire 30-year career, I haven't gone a week pre-pandemic without some family emailing me about why we don't have story time on evenings or weekends. And then we offer story time on evenings and weekends and no one comes, because what parent wants to come back out the door on an evening after they've made it home? And so YouTube solves that problem for us. I think that that's been lovely and a surprise to think about, that the technology isn't something I just have to learn. The technology is also something that will solve problems for me.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
That's kind of been the surprise for me is, you know, I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner, and, you know, I'm always pursuing different things. I am not a YouTube person. I live kind of where there's not good internet. So every time I try to watch a YouTube video, it just, you know, stops every 5 seconds. So I was really surprised to find that I could learn this new technology. I still have a ways to go, and the editing is, you know, kind of a problem for me. But I have learned, thanks to Molly, I can definitely do the rudimentary things. She's really helped pull me along. But yeah, that it's so ubiquitous, and how much I was missing out on in not only just pop culture, but I'm using it now for all kinds of problem solving that it never even occurred to me. Wow, there's some really useful information on YouTube that was a surprise for me, because I was kind of out of it. I probably shouldn't tell that story, should I?
Well, I think that's the other thing that we have been reminded of, is that we are not just the presenters of content. We are also learners, and that's what we want to model for our families and the children that we serve.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love hearing you all talk about the things that you've been learning and yourselves as learners in this process, and also how you bring some element of the experience of looking for information on YouTube and knowing that's an important part of our information landscape that our patrons and community members are going to be engaging with. So bringing that understanding and reflection of how you all use YouTube to the way that you then are present there is something that we now want to talk more about in our breakout sessions. So Renee, if you could start setting some rooms up, I will give us some direction on where we're headed. Let me share my screen real quick. So talking with Crystal and Molly and Claire previously, what we wanted to tease out a little bit more is, what do we all, or why do we all go to YouTube ourselves? What are those situations? What draws us in or interests us? And also, what opportunities do you then see for using YouTube to connect with your community? I'm very inspired by all these many different examples that we've been hearing about today. What does that spark for you? So we'll take about, I think, 10 minutes should do it. Introduce yourself to the other people in the room, get to know who's there, and then talk about these two questions. What for you as a community member draws you into YouTube, and what opportunities do you see? And I'll get these in the chat as well.
Okay, I'm sending the invitation. The rooms are opening now. If you find yourself in an empty room, will you just like come back to the main room? But have fun.